Hello, I will be working on the session six assignment, and let me get the camera. Okay, pretty good. So my mission for this assignment, session six assignment is about portfolio risk and return analysis. And my mission for this assignment is that excuse me, you just started your first job and want to invest your $10,000 signing bonus. Your colleague suggests going all in on Tesla because it's the future. Your parents say stick with an S&P 500 index fund. And so I'm wanting to build my portfolio. Excuse me. And here are some average return and standard deviation for these different companies, for stocks, I should say. But so if we look at all these investments and we put them into this graph right here, you can see all of them right here, and you can see the average return, the standard deviation, the risk return if we do the calculations. Um, and what we can get from uh, all of this information is that AAPL is the best risk adjusted return among all the stocks. And even though Tesla has the highest raw return of 0.53 or 60%, I should say, um, the benchmark has a Sharpe ratio of 0.50. Yeah, and then some correlations are that Tesla and APL 0.65, they're both highly correlated. And J and G and XOM at a 0.30 are low to moderate, which are good for risk reduction. Tesla and J&J 0.10%, which is slightly negative, but it's excellent for diversification. And since they tend to move in opposite directions, the stocks and bonds are at negative 0.20, which is crucial for risk reduction. So after looking at all those, here's the question that's being asked. It says, what happens to risk when you combine Tesla with bonds? And if we combine Tesla and bonds, it basically just reduces the overall portfolio risk, which is basically also means the standard deviation due to the low negative correlation and the bonds low individual volat volatility. And this is the essence of the diversification. And this is the portfolio variance, as you can see. And this is all the number of examples. So in conclusion, for that question, the risk, which is at 29.66%, is much lower than Tesla's individual risk, which is at 60%, but it's very still high due to the Tesla's immense volatility. However, the portfolio risk is less than the weighted average of the individual risks, which would be 0.5 to 60% plus 0.5 is 4%, which equals 32%. And it demonstrates the diversification benefit from the negative correlation and the low volatility of BND. And the other question that's being asked is, can you build a portfolio that beats the S&P's 500 return with less risk? It is possible strategically, and that is done by combining high return assets like the AAPL or Tesla with low correlation, the low volatility assets like bonds and the J&J. This definition of achieving a better Sharpe ratio than the benchmark, and it moves the portfolio above the S&P 500 on the efficient front frontier. Here's the goal. Here's all the proposed portfolio, the weights, I should say, and here's the expected portfolio return. And you get the return of 18.2%, which easily beats the SPY return of 12%. And then the third question is, what's the optimal mix for someone my age? For a young investor with a long time horizon, it should be geared towards throw or growth, which prioritizes the Sharpe ratio over minimal risks. And here's a table for asset allocation and rationale, and you can see that here. Expected return, which is 18.15%. And question four, how does correlation create the free lunch of diversification? Um, it creates the free lunch because it allows an investor to reduce risk without necessarily sacrificing return. Free lunch is the benefit that the portfolio standard deviation is less than the weighted average of the individual assets standard deviation. This is how it works right down here. Here's the formula for some explanation. And so in reflection, the most surprising element is that how effective a small allocation to a low return asset like bond 10% or defensive stock like J&J can dampen the extreme volatility of a higher asset like Tesla. And the negative correlation between Tesla and J&J minus 0.10 and the negative correlation between stocks and bonds negative 0.10 are extremely valuable. And then for the question of can the historical returns and correlations predict the future? And the simple answer is no, because historical data is used to estimate the inputs for modern portfolio theory, but the future is uncertain. So for returns, 35% average return for Tesla is unlikely to persist indefinitely. Correlations change drastically, especially during crises like pandemics and all those, when the stock market tends to move up and down. Um, and this is the code for the assets, the correlation, covariance matrix, the simulation portfolios. It's all that good stuff. You can see over here. But yeah. So here's the graph once again. And so for how changing the mix affect risk and return is that increasing Tesla, if we increase Tesla, it increases the RP and then it also increases the OP and it pushes the portfolio up and down, up and right on the risk return graph, which is the efficient frontier. Increasing bond decreases the RP and the OP, and it pulls the portfolio down and left. Increasing J&J as a diversifier provides a negative 0P while only moderately affecting the RP, especially when paired with high growth stocks due to its low slash negative correlation. This is the key to beating the S&P 500 benchmark. It finds an allocation that sits above SPY on the efficient frontier. But yeah, so if we go back to the question, so in conclusion, I would stick with the S&P 500 index fund because although Tesla may seem like it's a good idea and it's not bad, they're both pretty consistent and good, but in the long run, S&P 500 index fund will have better a better return rate and it'll just be the more smarter and safer option in the long run.